most people that get drafted very, very high and have a very successful junior career, getting drafted 31st overall, it's like it's almost like okay, it's a given. It's just a matter of time before I'm in the NHL, and that's my career. And as you know, you learned very. And this is obviously not a put down. It's just a reality. It's a very hard to be a. It's very, very, very hard to be an NHL hockey player, and for various different reasons.
Hmm.
So you've got your youth, you've got your pro career, you've got your junior career, you've got the World Juniors, all these things that are saying I'm going to be a great player, and which you were, and then as you retire, you get into kind of the business that I'm in. And the great thing that I love is you have kids that are in the game as well.
Yeah.
And recently, I think it was the past draft. Your son, is it Hudson
Hudson.
or
Yeah. My oldest is Hudson. Yeah.
Hudson was drafted to Calgary,
Kamloops Blazers.
Kamloops Razors. I'm sorry. And so, like, talk about that process as a dad going into watching your kids, because I absolutely loved it, and
Right.
I actually didn't have the issues that other parents had because kind of kind of saw it. But tell me about that. How great that is.
Well, I mean, that's really what brought me back. You mean going back a little bit farther in our discussion here already, you said, was there ever a part where you weren't around hockey? And there was, like, probably 10. When I retired, I couldn't have left the game fast enough, to be honest. Like I had a little bit of that the experience there where I wanted to come back when I was leaving Asia and like, yeah, I think I can play in the NHL still. I was 30 years old, right? I'm like, I want to revisit this opportunity again. Like, it didn't go well with as far as injury was concerned at camp, and I didn't want to play in the minors again, even though that opportunity was there. So I was like, all right, I'm done. And then so I jumped into the corporate world and do other things, and kind of just left hockey as, I mean, honestly, and I've said this before, almost as like a regret in some ways when I first left, like a way of like, I should have been something else. It should have been better than it was. Right. So it was a little bit of that, I was like, okay, you mean great experience, everything else, but it wasn't what I thought it should have been, for whatever reasons, and then just moved on. And then with the kids though happening, we tried to be a ski family. Like, my wife had nothing to do with hockey at all in any way, shape, or form, and she wanted to hit the ski hills in the winter, and I had no dog in that fight, and so we gave that a whirl. But they just wanted nothing to do with it. Like, they wanted to be on the pond, and they wanted to be
Yeah.
skating, and they wanted to be doing this and doing that. So they brought me back to it. You know what I mean? So now they're playing, right? They're young players. They're playing. Obviously, who's going to coach? Well, I should, right? Because why shouldn't
Yeah.
I? And yeah, so I got involved in the game that way, and for me, that was really my rebirth to like my love affair with the sport, because you get a little jaded as a pro. You can, at least, and especially when things don't maybe go your way as you perceive them, and things
Hmm.
happen, you can lose perspective, and coming back at the grassroots level there with my boys was really a revitalization for me of like all the great things the game can be and what it is about and what it stands for and what you can teach through it, and all these amazing things. And then obviously now I'm able to bring my perspective and my personal experience to be able to say to these guys, because now I can say it unboastfully, right? Like, I was a really, really good hockey player as a young player, like,
Obviously.
and and I was supposed to be the guy, you know what I mean? And the guys that I'm working with now, like, they weren't, like, very few are like that, right? So it's like, if you think you're gonna make it, like, there's things you got to do, right, for this to happen. So it's fun to have that perspective, and really, I mean, it's a full circle thing, because if I was a guy that played 500 games in the NHL or 1,000 or whatever, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now.
Right.
Right. I mean, I'd be doing something else. There'd be no reason to be giving back. Right. Because you'd be
Yeah.
invested in doing other things. So the fact that I'm able to use that now, I mean, as a benefit for somebody else is actually a really rewarding thing. So, I guess that's a really long-winded answer to your question about the boys. I mean, to see your boy's name be called at the WHL draft is super cool, against the nemesis that I battled against forever. Wasn't quite as cool. I was hoping it was going to be the Spokane Chiefs, but,
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that he got it, that elation that I saw in him, all the work that he's put in to have that happen. And obviously, I mean, there's hours and hours and hours of work left, but just being a part of it for sure, you know what I mean, from the perspective of a parent is probably even more rewarding in some ways than doing it yourself. I actually just made a video about Josh Doan, who I just interviewed on the podcast, and his first
I
NHL
listened to
goal.
it. Listened to it the other
Oh,
day.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like, I played that clip, and I'm sure you've seen it, like, where he scores and Shane is like like you can't even describe elation other than looking at him, right? And it's like, how many goals did he score? How long did he play? And like he would probably never had a reaction to his own goal like he did for his son, seeing him get to that spot, right? So like to be that now in that chair, it's like it's really fun to watch your kids go through it for sure.
Yeah, it was that was the same I did with Charlie. I had two older kids, but they weren't like dedicated. One was a girl, good in volleyball, track, but never really got into the sports the way that we did. But it was funny because in 2000 I started my business, and Charlie was born in 2005. So he grew up in the dressing room, and he grew up on the ice, and he knows so many NHL players that skated with me. And he used to come on the ice. Like, I remember uh, Steve Ott and Mike Weber and Ekblad and stuff would say, hey, let Charlie come on. He was just like 7 or 8, 9 years old. And it was great, but he didn't know any different, right?
Yeah.
But when before that even happened, it was I would take a couple days a week in the mornings, and I would just take him off just to hang out with him because I work. This business, it's later in the day, so you don't get to see your kids quite as much. So on the days off, because I didn't want to push hockey on him at all, it was around him, and it would be my wife told him that there's ice at the rink down the road.
Yeah.
So he was a little guy. He goes, "Daddy, can we go skating?" And I go, I found everything that I found every reason not to take him. I'd say, "Oh, well, the leaves are outside. Let's go play in the leaves." And he goes, "Can we go skating?" So that's how he came, and it was a never a push. And
Yeah.
to your point, um, it was great to see that he had the drive. Not even I don't even want to call it drive when you're 7, but he loved the game of hockey kind of the way I did. And I was like, okay, this is pretty cool to see, and watch him playing as a 7-year old, and not having a clue how to play, but carrying the puck around the ice, like not to the net, but just thinking that was a cool thing to do, and just watch him evolve and come out with a smile on his face. It made me so happy. And then to your point, to see him get drafted, like the hard work that went into it without me, and a lot of people say, a lot of people I talk to say I never push my kid, but they do. Because they got the thing on there. Did you do your 200 shots today? Did you do this? And it's like it's got to be intrinsic, right? It doesn't have to be, but it should be.
Yeah.
And to watch him do the work, and like you said, it's the hours of the ups and the downs, and I don't know from your perspective, but I know mine because I have a really successful business, and there's pictures of where I played and stuff, and people walk in and they go, "Oh, okay, so you have an advantage because your dad is this and you're breaking doors open." It's not true. It's just the kid did the work. So
Right.
there's that little bit of adversity, and just I was very proud of him for going through like the hard times. The good times are great. That's great because that's the easy part. But I love seeing when things aren't going your way, or when maybe a coach is a little bit jealous. And I don't know if you've ever um, experienced that with your boys. That the kids, your son's got to battle that aspect, and it's like a battle. There's a battle all the time, and that's one of the things that I'm the most proud of him is that he when things are tough, he chooses to continue on and work.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a massive attribute, as you know, and I mean, it's not almost, it's a requirement, it sounds like what your boy wants to do there. And,
yeah,
he's playing in these NHL prospect games and he wants to
yeah,
be a pro player. Uh, it's not smooth for anybody,
no,
and there's going to be some adversity there, which is where like the storyline of my business comes from, right? Is like, if you haven't experienced adversity, and that's the thing that I really do find in today's player, is that there's like adversity is almost manufactured out of the game, with the no real tryouts. Even if it was just that WHL camp, it wasn't really a tryout. There wasn't really competitive spots unless you were a young guy, right? Everything else was spoken for, which was not the case when you and I were doing it. So you mean, like, so the adversity of that even is not there. I mean, you're guaranteed these positions and what you're supposed to do, and from the time you're 8. So it's like at some point that does change. It depends on what organization you get drafted
yeah,
to, or whatever. And a lot of players aren't equipped for it now, and so to your point, like, if your boy did have the I call it the opportunity of a challenge, awesome. And if he came out of it finding, that he found some resolve within himself, or some resilience, or something about him as a human that's going to allow him to be an amazing hockey player, that's worth its weight in gold. No
yeah.
question about it.